I think the key that I'm hearing here is that a support group is needed. Someone who can relate to the situations that you are currently in can help you in many respects to have the tenacity, to have the encouragement that it takes when you're faced with an obstacle. I don't think either one of you here, and Reverend Braxton Berkley, I do want to include you in this list. You may not have come up with an invention per se, but to have written a book, well, I'm sure that was no easy feat either.
No, I was talking to Joe Edmonds in our last interview, and it's a company in Southern California. The name of our book is Afterthoughts. It's a boutique in the Fox Hill Malls.
Mini malls.
Mini malls that chose that name.
Yes.
And I thought I was protected under the copyright that I got from the Library of Congress, that nobody could use the title of my book for any other purpose than myself. And as I was talking to Joe Edmonds in the last interview, I restate that. He explained to me that the title, anybody could use a title, but they couldn't use the contents, the actual poems in the book. And I had heard that before because I was getting ready to take some legal action on that matter, and that's what I needed before I
the information.
Yeah, the information that he already had.
Yes.
It came to me too late. See,
now, Afterthoughts Productions, as our viewing audience, for those of you who may have just joined in, we're here having a very enlightening conversation about information. Afterthoughts Productions is sponsored by the Good Samaritan House, which is a non-profit organization. For more information about Afterthoughts Productions, please feel free to contact me, Karen Shepard Grimes, at area code 818-899-7846, or Reverend Braxton Berkley at the same number, 818-899-7846. Talking about copyright privileges, talking about patent privileges, a lot of misconceptions. Just as you thought your name was protected, but you found out it was the content. I've heard you, Joe Jackson, speak of an invention such as the pencil. Do you know where I'm going with this? Many times there is part of an invention that's already created, but improvement upon the invention constitutes a new invention that many people may not be aware of. Will you elaborate on that just a bit?
Yes, it's considered claims. The claims is what put the meat in your patents, okay? For instance, my 2 patents, I have a combination of 28 claims, okay? Let's say the person that invented the pencil and put the lead in, that was an invention. But then the person that came on and put the eraser claimed the eraser on an existing patent, okay? And then someone came along and put the clip so you could pin it in your pocket. That was an adaptation to an existing. So actually you have 3 inventions in one. However, the guy who originally came up with the pen, had he really thought that you need a way of erasing and you need a way of clipping it on, could have claimed those other 2 adaptations and had all of that in his original patent. Okay?
Well, that leads to another question. Legality. Are you and Joe, are you legal lawyers, or do you have lawyers on your staff, or how do you put that all in one package where you can protect a person? Yeah. You have the knowledge. I know both of you have the knowledge.
Yeah, the key to that is getting that knowledge. Yeah. And once you basically get the knowledge, then you go to an attorney just to confirm that knowledge that you already have. But before you even go to an attorney, you should have some prior knowledge about the patent system and how it works. For example, you don't want to go anywhere cold turkey. First of all, you have to learn your ABCs before you can put words together. It's the same thing with the patent system. Yeah. You must learn how the patent system works, because if you don't, what you're going to do, you're going to go to an attorney. Hopefully he's going to be a good attorney. But if he's not, you're going to have the same problem that we've been having throughout. So educate yourself first. Learn out what it is you need to know. At least know the difference between a utility patent, a design patent, a copyright, or a trademark. At least learn those 4 functions. Those are very simple functions. If you learn those 4 things, when you go to an attorney, you can tell him exactly what you want covered.
What is a utility?
What you want protected.
Well,
a utility patent is a functional product. For example, let's take an automobile, for example. Excuse me. The design of an automobile, the way it's shaped, is called a design patent. The engine that drives that car is the function. That's called a utility patent. So anything that functions is considered as a utility patent.
All right.
Anything that's shaped a certain way is considered a design patent.
Okay. Now I'm learning something. And I'm thinking, here I am, I have an invention, I have an idea, first of all, and I believe my idea would be useful. And I'm sure many of our viewing audience are sitting there saying, yes, but I didn't know all that was involved.
Hmm.
Is it as complicated and complex as it might seem to some of those listening?
No, the first thing you would do with an idea, you don't want to spend any money without determining if that product exists already.
Mhm.
So you need to do what is called a patent search. You can do that yourself by going to a major library. A major library, let's say, would be our main library here in Los Angeles. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to find this in Compton, or, you know, you'd have to go to the main library where they have a patent library. Now, in that library, they have every invention since the electric light
Okay.
up until the present time, okay? Then you'd want to determine if your invention fit in a certain category, okay? Let's, for instance, back during my grandmom's time, they put several irons on a stove, okay?
Right.
And they ironed with one and took it off as it got cold,
Right.
okay? A man came up and put a coil in the iron,
Right.
okay? And you could plug it into an electric socket. Now we had electric iron. Iron existed, but that coil constituted an invention on an existing product.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but it kept getting hot, so every time it got hot, he had to unplug it. Here comes another guy, and put a rheostat or a potentiometer to be able to control the temperature constant. Okay, that was an invention. Okay, so now we have two things on the old existing product. Then someone, instead of having mom sprinkle the water on the clothes with her fingers or with a bottle with some holes in it like this,
One thing
a
leads
man
to the-
decided to put a tank inside of the iron. Now we have a steam iron. So you've taken that same iron, you see. So if you went to the library to look up, you'd look up irons.
Right.
And then you would see all the
yeah.
adaptations to irons. And if you didn't see your adaptation there to improve this existing product,
Okay.
you could possibly have something that is new and unique and could constitute a patent for you. So that's kind of give you an idea in its simplest form as to
So
how
you
that's
improving
approached.
on a situation that's
I
already
like
presented
that.
That's
itself.
exactly right. For instance, my system, programmable television controls, TV controls existed, but no programmable television control existed, something that you can program now to happen later for you. And that's where, you know,
You
my
know
idea
what,
came
Karen,
from.
before you ask them another question, you know what struck me, amazed me about these two gentlemen in the last 3 or 4 months that I've known them, is that first, you know, you hear them talk and they have all this knowledge, and then your mind formulates degrees, you know, what college,
What
who were
institutions of
what-
grandeur,
what-
yes.
Did they go to Yale? Did they go to Stanford? They had to go to one of these great noted colleges to have all this information. But the reason I'm bringing this up, and it's not to embarrass anybody, but you do not have to have a college degree to have great minds.
That's true.
These men have great minds, and they are doing something with their minds. And when I asked Joe, and I asked the other Joe here, I'm gonna call them the two Joes, what degrees that they had, and they told me they had the degrees of common sense, and
Yeah.
that's basically was their answer to me. And you know, I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Because
Definitely.
a lot of times it'll hold people back. You say, well, I didn't graduate from Yale, or I didn't graduate from Harvard. But
Yes.
use the gifts that God has given you,
That's exactly
and that's
right.
exactly what they're doing. God gives people natural gifts.
Yes, he
And
does.
these two men have natural positive mentality, so that'll be commended. I had to say that because
And it
Yeah,
certainly
yeah,
does bear repeating time
right,
and again. So
right.
we'll keep that in mind because I want to hear that again. And it's true. Many of you looking on today, Afterthoughts Productions, and you're sitting at home, you're saying, I always come up with ideas.
right.
I think you would agree that the first thing to do is write it down.
That's it.
Put it on paper. It might not look like something great and grand today, but you keep it on paper, keep it before you, keep it private and personal. You don't want to tell too many people.
That's true.
Like you mentioned earlier,
Yeah, and like I want to know one thing. Did you have an invention? Because you're telling me that's a very good way on how to start protecting yourself.
That's exactly right.
Start keeping record.
Yes.
Start making sure that you keep record. Keep it in front of you because the idea grows as you
That's true.
constantly watch it.
Exactly.
You nourish it. You watching it. It's like watering this plant right here. As you water it, you can watch it grow.
Yes.
Same thing with your invention. You can watch it grow as long as you keep it in front of you.
I have an invention, and I talked to Mr. Edmond about it. And we're going to pursue it.
Good.
And I'm not going to tell the TV.
Well, no, because we don't know who's
But,
watching.
the first thing you do if you have an invention, I would suggest would be to get in touch with one of these gentlemen. Then they can give you directions on, like he just gave us some directions a few minutes ago.
Right.
Write it down and stay on it, water it every day,
Yes.
nurture it every day. But my first step is to get in touch with him
Excellent.
or Joe and work on it. And I believe that's the only way it's going to be successful, because somebody will sure steal it. And my invention is a positive invention.
Yes.
It's good.
Those are the best kinds.